What is goal setting for you, and how does it affect your day-to-day living, your day-to-day training? Goal setting for me was first evident when I was about 9 years of age. Maybe some might look at it more as a dream rather than a goal, but I remember being inspired by something I'd seen. Adrian Morehouse winning Olympic gold in the men's breaststroke at the Seoul 88 Olympic Games. That for me was the moment when I ran into the kitchen and I said to my dad, I want to go to an Olympics. I didn't realise at the time, but I had a dream, I had a goal, I had something that excited me. Now, we hear people day to day talking about goal setting, whether it be in sport, whether it be your coach, or whether it be in the workplace, even in school. We hear people all the time saying, what are your goals? And talking about reviewing them and having short goals, medium goals, long-term goals. But what does all this mean? If you imagine for a second a ladder, at the top of that ladder is the goal, something that really means something to you. And right now you're at the bottom of that ladder. Each rung on that ladder is a step closer to achieving your goal. And that is basically what goal setting is. It's identifying what needs to be done at each step to get closer and closer to that end goal. Achieving any goal is pretty simple. Firstly, you've got to have a goal. Secondly, you've got to work out what each step of that ladder looks like to achieve it. And thirdly, you've got to be prepared to do what it takes to achieve it. Sounds simple? Obviously not. Now, you could very well set easy goals that don't challenge you very much and you achieve success after success after success. But those that are most successful in sport, in life, in business, in education, are those that strive to push themselves almost beyond what they thought they were capable of. I want to share with you here a little bit of textbook stuff. I'm going to try and keep it as brief and as interesting as possible and relatable so that you can go away from this and actually put pen to paper and have or come up with some sensible goals that are hopefully going to give you the motivation to work hard. So we've probably heard of this acronym here, SMARTER. This acronym stands for specific or specificity, depending on what you read. What this means is that your goals need to be specific to whatever it is you're trying to achieve. There's no point in me setting a goal to run a marathon in a certain time because that is not going to make me a better weightlifter. But to set goals specific to the exercises and what I do in the gym is going to be much more specific. Is your goal measurable? Can you see if you've achieved it? In weightlifting, the numbers are pretty straightforward. You know what your best is, you know if you've improved, simple as that. There are other examples, so sports where it's more judgmental, for example, a team sport, where it's a bit harder to monitor or to measure success. But in weightlifting, it's pretty straightforward. You've got the numbers, you know whether you've hit them or not. Is your goal achievable? Okay, you could have other words such as agreed. I'll touch on both of them. So you've got to believe that you can achieve that goal. If it's something you think is out of reach, then the chances are you're not. Likewise, it's got to be an agreed goal. There's no point in your coach saying to you, right, here's your goal, this is what you're working towards, if you don't agree with it, if you don't think it's realistic or achievable, or if you've got other ideas. You're less likely to work towards a goal that somebody else has set for you if you don't buy into it. So any goals that other people come up with, make sure that you're in agreement. If you're not, have that discussion and come up with something that you do agree on, because then you've got to believe in it. If you believe in it, if you're passionate about it, you're much more likely to work hard to achieve it. So this could be achievable or agreed, depending on what literature you read. Realistic, I think achievable, realistic kind of go hand in hand. Again, is it realistic for you to work towards that goal? And that's why I refer to my original goal when I was 9 years of age more as a dream than a goal. Because at the time, was it realistic? Was it achievable? My dad laughed at me. He told me to go on and jog around the block. He didn't think for 1 minute that I was ever going to make it to an Olympic Games, because such a few, a fraction, just a few handful of people make it that far. But ultimately, a goal needs to be realistic. If you believe it's achievable, if you believe it's realistic, I want it to be something that's stretching you. I don't want it to be something that's easy. Then you're more likely to be getting out of bed, motivated to do the best every day. Is your goal time phased? Now, I'm going to come on to time phased shortly when we look at short, medium and long term, but you've got to have a deadline by when you're going to achieve that goal, because one day never comes. One day is always tomorrow, it's always next week, it's always next month, next year. How many people do you hear who say, oh, I could have done that? That's absolute BS. If they could have done, they would have done, but they didn't. So time phased is important. Have a deadline by when to achieve it. Then you know if you've achieved it. Then you can measure it. If it's ongoing and it just keeps ticking over, when do you measure? Is your goal exciting? When I share with people what my goals are or were when I was an athlete, it excited me. I used to get goosebumps talking about my desire to go on and compete at an Olympic Games, to medal at Commonwealth Games. For me, that was super exciting and literally gave me goosebumps. It was that one thing that, regardless of how I felt, would get me out of bed in the morning, would make me work hard. When the training got tough, all I had to do was remember what that goal was, and it would be enough to pick me up and carry on and push on. Are your goals recorded? Now, I think this is important, because if you don't record your goals, you're not accountable to yourself or to anybody else. You haven't failed to achieve something if it was never a goal in the first place. If nobody knows about it and you don't quite get there, it's okay. Well, that's what I call living in a comfort zone. I would encourage you to step out of that comfort zone. I would encourage you to record whatever your goals are on a personal level. Record them for you, seal them in an envelope, review them every few months. If you can and you're prepared to, share them with somebody. Share them with a close member of the family, maybe a partner, maybe other family members, maybe a close friend. If you're really committed and you're happy to be out there, share it on social media. I did this 6 weeks before I turned 40. So a couple of years ago, I had a bit of a midlife crisis, and I thought, what am I doing? I need a goal. And I just went for it, social media, and I said, right, I'm going to snatch 80, clean and jerk 100 when I turn 40. 6 weeks out, I had 6 weeks of training to get back to some kind of shape. I made myself accountable, I'd shared that, so I didn't want everybody messaging me saying, well, come on then, where are these numbers? And on the day before I turned 40, I went live on Instagram and I shared my session. It was live, under pressure. I think I hit 85 and 100. That is really putting yourself out there. But then I guess I'm used to doing that and stepping onto a competition platform. I perform best when under pressure. But if you're prepared to share your goals with somebody, record them, make yourself accountable. Again, you're much more likely to be driven to get out of bed and work hard to that, because somebody at the end of the day is going to be asking questions. So that's what SMARTER refers to. And I would encourage you that once you've done some goal setting, come back to this and ask yourself, are my goals specific, measurable, achievable, and so on? If they are, then the chances are they're pretty good goals. Now let's look at short, medium, and long term. And again, it depends on what literature you read as to how long each of these is. I'm not too interested in the literature, to be honest. As you know, I like to do things my own way. So what might be a long-term goal for me might be very different for yourself. Depending on age and where you're at in life, your long-term goal might be a year away. It might be 4 or 5 years away. So I want you to have a little think about what short, medium, and long-term mean to you. And don't worry too much about what the literature says. You do what works for you. On a competition cycle, when I was training and competing, for me, a long-term goal would normally be every 2 to 4 years, a Commonwealths to Olympics, that kind of cycle. And that's normal for a high-profile athlete. But that long-term goal, if you imagine this ladder, is the goal that's at the top. That's the dream goal. That's where you want to get to. Medium term could be over the next few months, so 3 months to 6 months, something like that. Again, it might be slightly different depending on what your situation is. And a short-term goal for me could be the here, the now, the session that I'm about to do right now, or this week, or in the next couple of weeks. Short-term needs to be something pretty immediate. So think about short, medium, and long-term goals and come up with 1 or 2 here. However many you come up with there, come up with twice as many here. However many you come up with there, come up with twice as many here. So you're going to have more short-term goals, more steps on that ladder to get to something big. And that big-ish goal is going to be your medium term. And if you achieve that, you're on target then for your long term. But remember, as we get closer to this medium term goal, you're going to have to review it and see where you're at, because that medium term is suddenly going to become a short term goal. So have a little idea about where you want to get to further down the line and then work backwards. What is that goal at the top of the ladder? What does each step on that ladder look like in terms of smaller goals? Now I'm going to look at 3 words that we may be slightly less familiar with, but I think are probably the most critical part of this. And that is process, performance, and outcome goals. Let me give you an example of each of these goals. An outcome goal could be to medal at a certain competition. It could be to win an Olympic Games. It could be to win a national championships, to medal at a national champs, to position top 10. They're all outcome goals. Performance could be in weightlifting to snatch a certain weight or to clean and jerk a certain weight. Very much performance orientated in terms of how you as an individual get on in a competition, for example. And then process goals are very much more to do with the process of achieving the others. And in this case, I'm going to look at technique. The process is the way that you move. Now think of those 3 goals, 3 examples. Process goals, you are in control of. You are not affected by anybody else, or you have the ability to not let anything else affect you. You go into a gym and every session, if you work on the process and polish up on the technique, the chances are you're going to hit these numbers and you're going to hit that performance goal. If you hit that performance goal, hopefully the long-term results or the outcome results will happen in competition. But what if you polish this up, you hit your numbers, you smash your personal best out of sight, but then somebody else turns up on the day and outlifts you because they're better than you? There's nothing you can do about that. So the reason I brought these 3 words into play is because the outcome goal, ultimately, you don't have a huge say over. And if you start worrying about what everybody else does, the chances are that's going to affect your focus and your ability to really work on you and the things that you can control. So I would very much encourage you to focus on the process, get the technique right, and this will take care of itself. If this takes care of itself, that will as well. Process to me are far more valuable than outcome goals. I hope you found this useful and interesting. I'm hoping now that you go away and commit pen to paper. I would be very interested in you reaching out and sharing your goals. Commit to me if nobody else. But if you are really up for it, commit on social media, put something out on Instagram, tag me in it, make yourself accountable. I'd love to know what your goals are over the next few years. Remember to follow me on my YouTube channel, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, follow me on Instagram @MichaelaBreeze, and I look forward to hearing how you get on. Goal setting.